Many women over 50 don't experience hair loss in patches. Their hair doesn't fall out in clumps, but month after month, their hair slowly becomes thinner. The part line grows wider. The scalp becomes more visible under the bathroom light. And when brushing their hair, they begin to notice that the amount of hair shedding is no longer normal like before. What confuses many women is that they haven't changed their shampoo, they aren't perming or dyeing their hair more often, and they aren't brushing their hair more aggressively. Everything seems the same except their hair is no longer what it used to be. But there is one factor that is changing every single day that very few people pay attention to. That factor is the nuts you eat regularly. There are certain nuts that nourish hair follicles from the inside, but there are also nuts that, despite looking very healthy, quietly cause more hair shedding with each growth cycle without you even realizing it. In this video, I'm going to be direct. Which nuts you should eat after 50 to help keep your hair strong, and which ones you need to be cautious with if you don't want your hair to continue thinning. Before we continue, please comment where you're watching from your state or your country. And if this content helps you better understand what's happening with your hair, please subscribe to the channel so we can grow this community together and reach 100,000 subscribers. If you had to choose the simplest nut to start caring for your hair after 50, it would be almonds. Not because they're expensive, not because they're trendy, but because almonds directly support what hair after 50 lacks the most: nourishment at the root. Many women believe hair loss is caused by hormones. That's true, but it's not the full picture. In reality, even when hormones aren't severely imbalanced, hair can still gradually thin if the hair follicles no longer receive enough nutrients to function properly. And this is where almonds begin to matter. Almonds contain biotin, a micronutrient that many women over 50 are deficient in without realizing it. Biotin isn't something that makes hair grow quickly in a few days. It's what keeps hair-producing cells functioning steadily over time. When we're younger, our bodies absorb biotin quite efficiently, but after 50, that absorption gradually declines. You may still be eating the same foods, but the amount of biotin that actually reaches the hair follicles is no longer the same. What's the result? Hair doesn't fall out in large amounts, but the strands become thinner, more fragile, and with each new growth cycle, the hair becomes just a little weaker. Almonds help gently fill that gap. Beyond biotin, almonds also contain vitamin E, and this is the part many women tend to overlook. Vitamin E doesn't make hair grow faster. It does something more important. It protects the scalp. Think of your scalp like soil. If the soil is dry, depleted, and damaged by oxidative stress, then no matter how many nutrients you add, plants can't grow well. The vitamin E in almonds acts like a protective layer. It helps shield the scalp from silent damage caused by prolonged stress, poor circulation. The natural aging process: when the scalp is better protected, hair follicles have a better chance of holding on to each strand longer instead of shedding it prematurely. One very important thing you need to understand is this: almonds are not a quick fix. You won't eat almonds today and see thicker hair next week, but if you eat them consistently, the right way, over several weeks to a few months, many women begin to notice subtle but meaningful changes. Hair breaks less when brushing. Strands feel stronger between your fingers. And most importantly, daily hair shedding stops increasing the way it used to. So how much is enough? The answer is not much. About 20 almonds a day is sufficient for most women over 50. You can sprinkle them over your morning oatmeal, add them to a salad, or simply carry a small portion as a daily snack. The method doesn't matter. Consistency does. Hair grows in long cycles, and almonds are a nut that helps stabilize the foundation rather than create sudden changes. But there's something else you need to know. Nourishing the hair strand alone is not enough, because even if the hair follicles have enough biotin and vitamin E, if the scalp environment is quietly inflamed, hair still won't grow well. And that's why the next nut I'm about to talk about is just as important, and for many women, even more important than almonds. If your hair isn't falling out in patches, but is thinning evenly across your scalp, especially at the crown and around the temples, then the problem likely isn't the hair strand itself, but the fact that your hair follicles have quietly gone dormant. And the second nut I want to talk about, cashews, is directly connected to that issue. Cashews are rarely mentioned when it comes to hair. They're not as famous as collagen, and they're not heavily marketed like multivitamins. But for many women over 50, they address one of the weakest points in the hair growth cycle. Inside cashews is zinc. Zinc doesn't make hair grow faster. Zinc does something far more important. It helps hair follicles exit the resting phase and return to a normal growth cycle. After 50, many hair follicles don't actually die. They simply stop working. And what's important to understand is this. Zinc deficiency doesn't cause immediate, obvious symptoms. You don't feel pain. You don't feel dizzy. There are no warning signs. There is only hair that quietly becomes thinner over time. Many women describe this experience in very similar ways. They say their hair still grows, but it no longer has thickness. It no longer has strength. And it breaks very easily when brushing or styling. That's when zinc becomes critically important. Zinc is like a construction manager in the body. Without it, the workers, the hair-producing cells, don't know when to work and when to stop. Cashews provide zinc in a gentle, easily absorbed form compared to many other foods. That's why many women over 50 feel that cashews agree with their bodies. But this is where many people make a mistake. They hear that cashews are good, and they start eating a lot of them. A bowl every day. Constant snacking. Eating without paying attention to portion size. And that's exactly what can prevent improvement or even cause more hair shedding. Cashews contain a compound called phytic acid. This substance can bind tightly to zinc, iron, and calcium in the digestive system, preventing the body from absorbing those minerals. In other words, eating cashews in moderation helps supply zinc, but eating too many allows phytic acid to outweigh the benefits. This is why some women say, "I eat very healthy, I eat mostly nuts, and my hair still keeps falling out." The problem isn't that they're eating the wrong foods, it's that they're eating too much of them. The appropriate way for women over 50 to consume cashews is about 1/4 cup, 2 to 3 times per week. There's no need to eat them every day. No need for large handfuls. Cashews work best when they are eaten slowly, consumed mindfully, and included as part of a balanced diet. When used correctly, many women begin to notice subtle changes after a few months. Hair breaks less during brushing, strands feel thicker and stronger. And most importantly, hair no longer continues thinning with each growth cycle the way it used to. Now I want to ask you a very simple question. If you regularly eat cashews or similar nuts, please comment number 1. If you rarely eat them or eat very little, please comment number 0. I want to understand the nut-eating habits of the women watching this video, because in the next part, we'll talk about another nut, one that doesn't wake up hair follicles like cashews do, but plays a decisive role in calming silent inflammation on the scalp. And if your scalp is inflamed without you realizing it, then even if your follicles have enough zinc, it will still be very difficult for your hair to grow strong again. If your hair isn't falling out excessively, but it can't seem to grow thick again, even though you've been taking good care of it, then the issue may not be the hair follicle itself, but the scalp environment. And the third nut, walnuts, is directly connected to this. After 50, many women develop a condition they don't even realize they have. Silent scalp inflammation. No redness, no pain, no obvious flaking. But beneath the surface, the scalp is experiencing low-grade, long-term inflammation. And when the scalp is inflamed, hair follicles are like plants trying to grow in dry, oxygen-poor soil. What's the result? Hair grows slowly. Strands are thinner, and hair sheds prematurely even when the follicles are still technically alive. Is possible to will. This is where walnuts begin to matter. Walnuts are one of the very few nuts that contain omega-3 fatty acids, a type of fat known for calming inflammatory responses in the body, including the scalp. Many women hear omega-3 and immediately think of fish. But in reality, not everyone over 50 digests fish well, and not everyone eats enough fish each week. Walnuts offer a gentler alternative, especially suitable for older women. The omega-3 sections in walnuts help to improve blood flow to the scalp, reduce silent inflammation, create better conditions for hair follicles to receive oxygen and nutrients. When inflammation decreases, follicles are no longer strangled, and hair has a better chance of staying on the scalp longer, instead of shedding early. But that's not the only reason walnuts are important. Walnuts also contain copper, a mineral that's rarely talked about, yet directly related to hair strength and structure. A copper deficiency doesn't cause sudden hair loss. Instead, it causes hair to become drier, more fragile, and lacking that strong, resilient feel when you touch it. Many women say their hair is still there, but it no longer feels strong the way it used to. That's often a sign that the hair shaft is weakening from within. Walnuts help support this slowly but sustainably. When eaten consistently, many women begin to notice a more comfortable scalp, less itching or tightness, less hair shedding during washing. And here's something important to remember. Walnuts are not meant to be eaten every day. The body only needs a moderate amount to rebalance inflammation. Most women over 50 only need about 7 to 10 walnut halves, 3 to 4 times per week. You can mix them into yogurt, sprinkle them over a salad, or eat them on their own. No complicated preparation required. No large portions needed. Walnuts work best when eaten consistently and in moderation, not when consumed in excess. Now I want to ask you a simple question. If you regularly eat walnuts or similar nuts, please comment number 1. If you rarely eat them or almost never do, please comment number 0. I'd really like to understand the scalp health and nut eating habits of the women watching this video, because in the next part, we'll talk about the final nut in the beneficial group, one that doesn't directly affect the hair strand or the scalp, but instead influences a small gland in the body that can determine the entire hair growth cycle. And many women over 50 don't realize that this gland has been quietly functioning less effectively with each passing year. If you feel that your hair is shedding more than usual, not just for a few days, but continuously for months, and even after changing your diet and taking all kinds of supplements, your hair still doesn't truly recover, then the problem may not be your hair at all. It may lie in a small gland in the body that many women over 50 no longer pay attention to. And the fourth nut, Brazil nuts, is directly connected to that gland, the thyroid. The thyroid is a small gland located in the neck, but it controls many vital functions: energy levels, metabolism, body temperature, and the hair growth cycle. When the thyroid begins to slow down, the body prioritizes energy for more essential organs, and hair, as usual, falls to the bottom of the list. That's why so many women over 50 describe their hair in very similar terms: dry, lifeless, shedding more, but not in patches. What's important to understand is this: thyroid dysfunction doesn't always cause obvious symptoms. You may not have neck pain, no swelling, nothing that feels seriously wrong, but your hair begins to change. One of the most common reasons the thyroid underperforms is a lack of selenium, a mineral the body needs to produce thyroid hormones. And this is where Brazil nuts become unique. Brazil nuts are one of the richest natural sources of selenium available. Just 1 to 2 nuts can provide the amount of selenium your thyroid needs for an entire day. When the body doesn't get enough selenium, the thyroid begins to slow down, the hair growth cycle becomes longer, and many hair follicles remain stuck in the resting phase longer than they should. That's why women experience hair that grows slowly, sheds persistently, and is difficult to restore, even after trying many approaches. When Brazil nuts are used correctly, many women notice that the first improvement isn't new hair growth, but reduced shedding. The hairbrush is no longer full of hair. The bathroom floor has less hair after washing. Then, and this takes time, some women begin to notice very fine baby hairs appearing along the hairline or at the crown. This is a sign that the hair growth cycle is gradually restarting. But there is one extremely important thing you must remember. With Brazil nuts, more is never better. Because selenium is very potent, eating too much can backfire. Excess selenium can cause fatigue, discomfort, and disrupt mineral balance in the body. For most women over 50, the safe and effective amount is 1 to 3 nuts per day, not eaten in large amounts at once, not making up for it by eating more the next day. Brazil nuts work best when taken consistently, in small amounts, not as a quick or aggressive fix. You can eat them plain as a snack, chop them, and sprinkle over a salad, or add 1 nut to a morning smoothie. Nothing fancy, nothing complicated. What matters is this: Brazil nuts are not meant to make hair grow fast, but to restore a stable hormonal environment, so hair has a chance to recover And when the thyroid begins to function better, you'll notice something very clearly. Your hair no longer feels like it's sliding downhill month after month. But this is also the moment when I need to tell you something important. All the benefits from the 4 nuts we've just talked about can be completely undone if you're unknowingly eating the next group of nuts I'm about to mention. They look harmless. They're even considered healthy. But for hair after 50, they may be the most silent saboteurs of all. Before we continue, I want you to do one very simple thing. If you're dealing with hair concerns, excessive shedding, thinning, weak hair, or difficulty regrowing it, please leave a short comment below describing the issue you're most worried about. It doesn't need to be long, just honest, because many women watching this video are going through the same thing, they just haven't said it out loud yet. And you are not alone. Now we need to talk about the part that many women don't like to hear, but that ultimately determines whether your hair can recover or not. The 4 nuts I mentioned earlier can be very supportive for hair, but just 1 or 2 wrong choices, repeated day after day, can completely undo all of that effort. And the most dangerous part is this. These nuts don't cause hair loss immediately. They cause hair to shed quietly, cycle by cycle, so that you only realize there's a problem when your hair has already become much thinner. The first nut that needs to be mentioned is cashews when eaten in excess. Cashews are not bad. You've already seen that they can be helpful when used correctly. But when they're eaten every day, in large amounts, cashews begin to create a problem that very few people talk about. Cashews contain phytic acid, a compound that can bind tightly to minerals like zinc, iron, and calcium in the digestive system. When this happens, the body can't absorb those minerals, even if you're eating very healthy foods. This creates a very common paradox in women over 50. They eat a lot of nuts. They eat very healthy, but their hair still falls out. Not because they're eating the wrong foods, but because they're eating too much, which prevents the body from absorbing what the hair actually needs. The next nut is pecans, especially candied pecans, sugar-coated pecans, or those commonly found in desserts. The problem with pecans isn't the nut itself, but the way we usually consume them. Most pecans are eaten in pecan pie, sugar-roasted pecans, high-sugar desserts, and sugar is one of the most powerful hormone-disrupting factors for hair after 50. When blood sugar rises frequently, the body has to release more insulin. Over time, cells become insulin-resistant. This directly affects hormones, especially androgen-type hormones, the very hormones that can cause hair follicles to shrink. This is the mechanism behind why so many postmenopausal women experience thinning at the crown and a widening part line. What's dangerous is this. Hair usually doesn't fall out while you're eating a lot of sweets. It falls out weeks or even months later, when you no longer connect the cause to the effect. The third nut is peanuts. Peanuts seem harmless, cheap, easy to eat, present in many everyday meals. But peanuts have a serious issue that many women don't know about. They are prone to contamination with aflatoxin, a toxin produced by mold that can affect the liver. The liver plays a critical role in processing hormones, filtering toxins, distributing nutrients. When the liver is overloaded, even mildly, hormones begin to fall out of balance, and hair is always one of the first places where that imbalance shows up. Many women have habits like eating peanuts daily, using peanut butter frequently, never considering that this could be related to hair loss. The issue isn't eating peanuts occasionally, it's the constant repetition. And finally, the nut that is most problematic for hair after 50: macadamia nuts. Macadamias are often marketed as premium and healthy, but for hair after 50, they come with several disadvantages. They are extremely high in omega-6 fatty acids, and when omega-6 intake far exceeds omega-3 enters the body, silent inflammation increases. Inflammation doesn't only affect joints or blood vessels, it also affects the scalp. In addition, macadamia nuts are very high in calories and fat. Just a small amount delivers a large amount of energy, making it easy to slip into metabolic imbalance if eaten frequently. And for women over 50, metabolic imbalance almost always goes hand in hand with hormonal imbalance. On top of that, macadamias are difficult to digest for many older adults. When digestion is poor, nutrient absorption declines, and hair, once again, is the first to suffer. The biggest problem with macadamias is this: they taste very good, and they're very easy to overeat without realizing it. You open a bag, one handful, then another, and before you know it, your body is forced to process a large load of fat and omega-6 that your hair doesn't actually need. I'm not saying you must completely eliminate these nuts, but if you're experiencing hair loss after 50, you need to clearly recognize what is helping you and what is quietly pulling your hair downhill month after month. Because hair doesn't fall out because of one meal. It falls out because of small choices repeated long enough. And when you begin to change those choices, your hair may not grow back immediately, but it will stop getting worse. And that is the very first step of recovery. Hair after 50 doesn't change because of a single day, and it can't recover because of just one food. But when you clearly understand what is nourishing your hair and what is quietly weakening it, you begin to take back control. Small choices, repeated every day, are what determine whether your hair continues to thin or has a chance to stop declining and begin recovering. If this video helps you better understand your hair, please tap like to support the channel. Each like helps gentle, accurate information reach more women over 50. And if you know a friend or a sister who is worried about thinning hair or hair loss, please share this video with her. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel to walk with us on a kinder, more thoughtful journey of caring for health and beauty after 50. Thank you for staying until the very end.